Howdy, gang. Hey, the poet, and welcome to the, I believe, third episode of Psycho Road Trip, the films of Pete Walker. And here in just a little bit, we're going to be talking about the Confessional and one of my favorite all time Pete Walker slashers, Schizo. You may have heard me talk about this movie in the past. It is probably my favorite of all the Pete Walker films that I've seen thus far. I've still got maybe a couple that I still need to watch per se, but most of them I have seen. And, I don't know. Something's going to have to be really good to knock this one out of the running, knock Schizo out of the running. But I want to get some housekeeping stuff out of the way first before we get into the two movies for tonight. And I just want to remind you of the rest of the programming that we've got coming up for the rest of the week. Tomorrow night, hopefully starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, will be a horror movie rewind talking about all the goofs and trivia I can dig up on the film Blood Rage, which does have a Thanksgiving theme to it. Thursday night, also hopefully starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, will be They're All Messed Up, and I'll be talking about Eyeball and the Love Butcher and all the kills in each because, yeah, that's what we talk about on They're All Messed Up. Friday, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on November the 21st, will be another Evil Dead Chick slumber party. And this is going to be Evil Dead Chicks, A Nightmare on El Dorado Avenue slumber party. And hopefully, several of us will be watching the original Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, directed by Wes Craven, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4. So be sure to bring your stay awake pills, your coffee, or your other caffeinated beverage of choice so that you can stay up for both of the movies and so Freddy don't get you. And on Saturday, it's going to be yes, folks, it's going to be a watch along weekend. And the movie that was chosen by poll pretty unanimously was Cannibal Holocaust. And that will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, November the 22nd. And just want to warn you, and there will be a warning before the movie. This is not going to be the animal cruelty free version, it's going to be the full version. So I love animals, and you may see me turn away, but I thought it better to, Now, if you're watching it on your own in the comfort of your own home, and see, I'm not streaming it either because I can't. So I'm not actually going to be showing this film. But you can watch it either version that you want. If you want to watch the one without the animal cruelty, please, but by me watching the one with the animal cruelty, the animal violence, in no way, shape, or form do I advocate that kind of behavior. I think it's cruel. It was unneeded in this movie. But as I've said before, I'm pretty much a purist. So a lot of times when I watch these, especially for programming, I like to make sure that I watch the original form of it. But you may get a little bit behind or so, or ahead, probably rather, if stuff is cut out. But if you choose to, you can watch an animal cruelty free version. Okay. Just to remind you, but I will have a warning at the beginning of the watch along, just like I did when I did not a watch along, but I think I did a slasher fest on I Spit on Your Grave and Last House on the Left. And because of the subject matter presented in both of those films, I thought it better to have a little bit of a warning. So, plus, we should have all kinds of programming coming up next week. with the exception of Thanksgiving Day, because I will be spending that with Steve and my parents and my brother and my sister in law and my nephews, and probably my aunt as well. Hey, Gory Tiger. DePoe US, is there a Pete Walker box set? Well, there's not one box set, DePoe, but let me run back here and get something real quick. I'll be right back. The can't talk. The company Redemption Films actually put out, I believe, a couple of these called the Pete Walker Collection, and I have the first one. That's a 4 disc set. It has 4 movies on. It has House of Whipcord, The Comeback, Schizo, and Die Screaming Marianne. And I believe there's a second one as well, but I don't have that. The only reason I have this one is because my good friend CK from over at Dead Pit gave this to me a few years back when we were both at a convention. He didn't end up selling this, and he said, Dana, is there anything you would like, to have? I said, well, I don't want to be greedy or anything, but I said, if you want to offload that Pete Walker collection, I'll take it. And he's like, you got it. So I'm thankful that I got that because it's got Schizo on it, one of my favorites. But it also has The Comeback, which I've heard is great too. But I don't think I've watched that one. But House of Whipport and Die Screaming Marianne, I watched for, specifically for this series of streams that I've been doing. And I want to say these are $30 to $40 a piece to Poet, but don't quote me on that. You might want to check Amazon and see if they've got these for sale. But I don't think there's like one big comprehensive box set like they have made for some movies or some directors. But excuse me, folks. Oh, I don't know. I just got the sleepies all of a sudden right before I was getting ready to come on. And I don't know about the weather where you guys and gals are at, but here it just came a big flash of lightning and then it thundered real loud, but then it just rained. So at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go on when I wanted to go on or not if we're going to have a storm. But thankfully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it doesn't get bad or anything. Okay. So, I also want to remind you guys and gals, as always, that there are several different ways that you can support me and the channel, and it won't cost you a dime. And one of those is by subscribing. There's never a bad time to subscribe to my channel or anybody else's channel out there on YouTube. Take your pick. There are a lot of amazing channels out there. My friend Chris does the Crater Mania. He does that channel, and you should definitely check out Chris. Chris is one of the most knowledgeable people that I know, not only about movies and not just horror movies, all different kinds of movies, and collectibles, like collectible toys and stuff like that. He's very knowledgeable. He's very knowledgeable about music. I mean, wrestling. That guy is a fount of knowledge. So I invite you to go on over to Crater Mania and check Chris out. He really does a top-notch job with his stuff. My buddies over at Dead Pit Radio, if you haven't heard of them, I mean, they do a fantastic show. They are two very entertaining and funny guys. You've seen, a lot of you that are in here on a regular basis have seen CK and Uncle Bill pop in here from time to time in my streams over the years. And so, I like to promote other people as well. I'm not just here to promote myself. But, if you did want to subscribe and you have not yet subscribed, I promise you, I won't try to come to your house and minister to you or sell you candy bars and cookies. Nobody has to know, including me, that you subscribed, unless you want me to. I don't know what. There's a bad smell in here all of a sudden. Hold on, folks. You know, when I have 5 dogs, it could be a case of I might have an accident in here. So let me just check real quick. Sorry about that, folks. I smelled something really stinky, and it was not me. And I thought maybe one of the dogs had an accident here, but I'm not seeing anything now. So or seeing anything around here. Uh, but anyways, to get back to this, um, and you can watch as little of the videos or as much of the videos as you want. Again, nobody has to know. It's none of anybody's business. You know, you're not required just because you subscribe to watch every streaming video I put out. You can pick and choose the ones that you want, the things that you're most interested in. Okay. You can hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the new content I've got coming out. Hit that like button on things you especially enjoy. If you enjoy everything, hey, hit that like all the way across the board. And here's one more way that you can support me and the channel, and it won't cost you a dime. It won't cost anybody that you tell about the channel a dime. And that is by sharing with friends and family members that you think might enjoy the content I'm putting out. And again, I will do you a solid um, and put my channel handle in here. By the way, the poet, have you got your movies yet? I expect them to be coming along in the next day or so if they haven't already arrived. Um, but um, in any event, we're going to go ahead and get started talking about these movies, which neither one of them do I have just like a single box for. Schizo, of course, is in the Pete Walker collection set. Um, well, the Confessional, technically I do, but I'm lazy and didn't want to go back and get my DVD. So I have a couple, not yet. Well, like I said, the poet, I expect by Wednesday or Thursday. If you don't get them soon, though, let's say you don't get them by Friday, let me know and I will check the tracking on that because we want to make sure that you get those because you definitely earned them. Um, but I do have a couple of poster images that I will show. And of course, we're going to talk about the confessional first, which is right here. The Omen, The Exorcist, The Confessional, the Unholy Trinity is now complete. One day, a monstrous evil was unleashed from the most sacred place on earth. And what is the confessional about, you might be thinking? Well, it's basically about a crazy priest. Um, and for those of you that that are Catholic, I'm not trying to say bad things about Catholics or anything like that. That I'm just talking about this movie, directed by Mr. Pete Walker. I just want to check on the year. This is also known as the House of Mortal Sin. This is 1976. This is as old as I am, folks. I was born in June of 1976. So what we have here, the movie opens up with a young girl being very frantic. She comes into her parents' house, and goes up to her room, and it looks like she's trying to pack some things away. And her parents, wonder, what's going on with her, what's bothering her, all that good stuff. And they go upstairs to her room, and her door is locked and she's not answering her parents. So her father forces the door open. They go to the open window and discover that she's leapt to her death. We slowly begin to find out that she was somehow connected with this priest. The priest is shown on the poster there. This guy's not a good priest at all, folks. He's a sicko priest who is only interested in, driving these young girls crazy. Stephanie Beacham, who I absolutely love, who is also in the second movie I'm going to talk about tonight, Schizo. Very beautiful, attractive English lady. And Anthony Sharp is in this, playing Father Xavier Meldrum. That is the evil priest, folks. Susan Penn Halligan plays Jenny Welch. Stephanie Beacham, of course, plays Vanessa Welch. Norman Ashley plays Father Bernard Cutler, who's the good priest. And yes, Miss Sheila Keith is in this as well, playing Miss Rabazin. I think that's how you pronounce it. But so you have the sicko priest who's trying to manipulate young women. And while he's trying to do that, anybody that gets in his way, he takes them out in various bloody ways. I enjoyed going back and rewatching this one again. It was good to revisit it. Again, Schizo is still my favorite, but this one is up there for me too. I enjoy the slashings in it. The slashings are on par to me with Schizo, and I think to me, this is when Pete Walker is at his best, when he's doing films like this. Now, the other films that I've talked about that haven't been necessarily stalk and slash have been good. They've been very well made movies, but they didn't have that extra oomph that I like in them. So although the others I didn't hate, I did like them. And like I said, they were well made movies and they should be well respected. Just as far as the top of the heap stuff, though, from Pete Walker, Schizo, The Confessional, possibly even The Comeback, and maybe to some extent House of Whipcord as well. But definitely Schizo and The Confessional are, to me, they're top of the heap when it comes to Pete Walker films. And I would highly recommend them. Now, The Confessional, if you don't already own a copy and you want to check out The Confessional, you can watch it on Tubi right now. If you don't mind watching it with commercials, unless you have the hacked commercial-free version of Tubi. There is one out there, if you can get a hold of it. So there's no stuff cut out of them, but you do have to have commercials every once in a while. So The Confessional, I really, really like it. Not as much as Schizo, but I still really, really like it. And that is why I'm going to give it 4 deadites out of 5, possibly 4.5. All right. So the next one I want to talk about is, in my opinion, this is the best Pete Walker film. And if not best Pete Walker film, it's his best slasher film. Okay. So there are several different posters for Schizo. and several different VHS covers. And I used to have, I believe I had a clamshell of this on VHS at one time. Um, and, I have loved it since the first time I ever saw Schizo. Before I even knew who Pete Walker was. And this one also came out in 1976. Again, this one's as old as I am. Um, so we have Samantha, the main character in the film, who's played by Lynn Frederick. Yes, that Lynn Frederick that was at one time married to Peter Sellers. Um, Now, I'm not saying Peter Sellers is a bad looking guy or was a bad looking guy or anything. He was certainly funny in a lot of films and not so funny in some films, but I've seen him in a lot of comedy stuff. The Pink Panther stuff as Inspector Clouseau. He was in The Magic Christian playing Guy Grand. If you've never seen The Magic Christian, I highly recommend it. Now, I know Steve said that he would never watch The Magic Christian again after watching it with me that one time. But we're not really talking about Peter Sellers. But Lynn Frederick is the main character, Samantha, in the movie, and she's an ice skater. And she's getting ready to marry this guy that owns a uh what does he own? Like a do they make rugs and carpets or something like that? I think it's something like that. But he's a big deal. He's got uh a big uh warehouse where they make all this stuff, and he's evidently very successful, and she's very successful as a professional ice skater. So they're getting married, but there's a weird guy around um that is convinced that she killed her mother when he was her mother's lover, and she's convinced that he killed her mother. So, a lot of cat and mouse in this. Somebody is killing different people off. We have one woman that gets a knitting needle through the eye. And to me, it's more spectacular than the knitting needle in the back of the head in Friday 13th Part 3 or Friday 13th 3D. Um, and this was without, it was without 3D. Um, you got somebody being beat with what looks to be a sledgehammer and then pushed out in front of a bus. You've got several slashings. Um, a guy gets his throat slit in his car. I mean, it's definitely very very bloody. In fact, I think this is bloodier than the Confessional. And um, it's just there are some really creepy parts in this film. And it's got a fair amount of sleaze. For instance, there's a psychiatrist named Leonard, who's Stephanie Beacham's character, who is a friend of both Samantha and Alan, her fiance, soon to be husband. And she is in love with Leonard, even though Leonard has a wife who he doesn't even like. So I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to pay her alimony or something. So he doesn't want to divorce her. But he also messes around with a bunch of different women. Um, but Stephanie Beacham's character, Beth, is just head over heels in love with him. And she's willing to, take him as he is. Um, but very tight little slasher movie, very creepy in some parts. You have a girl that is a medium who, at one point during a showing of her powers where she can talk to the dead and stuff, her eyes go white and she's talking in a man's voice, and it's kind of creepy. The the guy that Samantha thinks killed her mother, he's creepy. Um, and you're never really sure, what's going to be around the corner. This is high powered content from Pete Walker. And dare I say, it's Pete Walker at his best. And I wish that he had done more movies like this one in the style of this one. Maybe not like shot for shot, but in the style of Schizo. It's not that I dislike his other movies. It's just that this one is just so great and works so well. But if you watch interviews with Pete Walker, for instance, I watched an interview before I rewatched this last night, and he basically said, that wasn't really his forte. And I'm like, really, Pete Walker? That's not your forte? Well, you made an amazing one with Schizo. So he definitely had the chops in order to pull something like this off. And I want to see. Okay, so you can watch Schizo on Tubi as well. So if you want to check out both Schizo and the Confessional, aka the House of Mortal Sin, and I think it's under. If you punch in Confessional, it comes up the House of Mortal Sin on Tubi. So just keep that in mind. And you can watch both of those for free on Tubi. And so I'm going to go ahead and give a rating to Schizo. And of course, y'all can probably guess what kind of rating I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it 5 deadites out of 5 because to me, Schizo is a near perfect stalk and slash movie. Nothing more, nothing less, but it really pulls out all the stops. Pete Walker does a fantastic job with Schizo. He does a great job with the other movies, but he's off the scale with Schizo, in my opinion. So I guess that is it from me for tonight. But be sure to tune in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're going to have a horror movie rewind for Blood Rage, aka Nightmare at Shadow Woods, and I'm going to see how many goose and how much trivia I can dig up on Blood Rage. We're going to be discussing that. And then Thursday night, also hopefully starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, will be They're All Messed Up. And I will be talking about Eyeball and the Love Butcher and the kills in each. And then we've got, Evil Dead Chick's Slumber Party, Evil Dead Chick's Nightmare on El Dorado Avenue Slumber Party, to be specific. And we'll be watching Nightmare on Elm Street, the original from 1984, directed by Wes Craven, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4, folks. And then Saturday is a watch along weekend, folks. And we will be watching, this was voted pretty unanimously, for Cannibal Holocaust. So look forward to all of that coming up the rest of this week and into the weekend. So as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, because I think I forgot to do this last night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. And if you love Aussie as much as I do, get out there, blast some Aussie, and try your best to live the Aussie way. And what do I mean by that? Don't stay stuck in the past, folks. Move forward from the present into the future, but don't worry about the future, folks. And don't ever, ever give up on your dreams. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday night, folks. We're almost to Wednesday. We're almost to hump day, halfway through the week. It can only get better from here, right? So, I'm going to get on out of here. I love each and every one of you guys. Again, have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday night, and I'll see everybody next time.